And therefore, if I own the government, all information of the government belongs to me. On the other hand, a private company, unless it is financed by me, I have no right to get information about it. That's the fundamental philosophy of this. Transparency, of course, may be good for everybody, but that's the way the law has been structured right now. Because if you were to extend it to private, then the question will come up to where?
Yeah.
Perhaps nowhere in the world has this kind of extension been done. And for very good reasons. Because then if I can ask a private company, why not you individually? I mean, where do we draw that line? So this has been difficult, and on what grounds are you therefore accessing that information and so on? So it's been restricted to what we call public authorities. Having said this, government-aided schools, NGOs getting a lot of government aid, they are all covered under the Right to Information Act. Who do I go and ask information from? The Act has done very elegantly, saying all administrative units of all public authorities have to appoint a public information officer. So citizen doesn't have to go about trying to find out where is the public information officer, where will I go and ask information from. Simple thing the citizen identifies is, where do I want information from? Let's say the police department. Fine. This police station is where my information is likely to be. So all I do is public information officer, so and so police station. I want information from the health department, public information officer, let's say Mantralaya, if I want to, I can send it there. Or to any other office. Village, yes? Village Panchayat, public information officer, so and so village Panchayat, there has to be a public information officer there. I don't have to worry. There is not a special officer. This is an officer who's usually doing some other job, who's also given the job of being a public information officer. But there is no forms required at all anywhere in the country. Some states have formats, so you just follow the format to make your application, that's all. The fee in most cases is 10 rupees, and usually in most parts you can pay the fee by an Indian postal order, demand draft cash also, but Indian postal order is convenient. In some states you have a non-judicial stamp or a court fee stamp of 10 rupees that you can affix. And that's all you need to do. And you, yes?
Is the fees a norm even in other countries?
Various
I guess it's probably for administrative purposes or something like that.
Well, in US, for example, there is no fee. So various countries have different fee. 10 rupees is a notional fee that has been put in India. And what, yes? The law defines is that for those below poverty line, there are no fees to be paid. Yes?
So right now the problem is many of these departments do not have PIOs, right? So if the average citizen tries to address it and there's no PIO person to address it, what happens?
Okay, look, there are two things. One is you go physically to give an application. The other is you can send it by post. In fact, to most people, except the very poor, and I grant there's a problem there, except the very poor, I tell people, send it by post. For most people, today, about 50% of India's population, 10 rupees postal cost is not something unaffordable. I mean, I'm not saying it's small, but it is affordable. You send by post, almost no department will dare to send it back. It's an offense under the RTI Act. The refusal to take an RTI application is an offense, punishable with penalties and so on. So therefore, by post, it's very, very rare that an application is sent back. Now, when somebody goes personally, they have this problem. Where also, typically, we've been as activists telling people that, look, what you do is, fine, you want to go personally, and that person says, no, I will not take your application. Then to give it to you in writing, that person will refuse to give it to you in writing. Take 3 people and say, and we've tried this. I mean, I haven't done it, but I've advised people and they've done it very successfully. I tell them, take 2 people, 3 people, tell that officer that I am now making a statement in front of you that you are refusing to take this application and you are refusing to sign on this and confirm that you are refusing to take this application. At least 2 places where citizens tried this, it worked. That person said, yes, okay, give me your application, I'll take it. So the law has defined that if they don't take an application, it's an offense under the law. And the reason why this law works is this great proviso, this single proviso in the RTI Act, which nothing like this exists in the whole Constitution of India, which is a proviso for penalizing the public information officer personally if information without reasonable cause is not given in 30 days' time. The penalty is 250 rupees per day. going up to 25,000 rupees. But this is a unique proviso which doesn't exist in the entire Constitution of India. There is nothing that you can do, no matter how major a calamity occurs. 100,000 people can come together, but you cannot hold a public servant accountable. Here is this simple law which says one citizen, just one citizen, sends an RTI application or requisition asking for information, and without reasonable cause that person is not given a reply to, he or she will pay a personal penalty from their salary of 250 rupees per day. This is the reason why the Act works. This is the teeth of the Act. Otherwise, the Act won't have worked. I mean, it will. Yes.
So I had a question. So when they implement the Act nationally, does that empower me to ask questions of the state government?
Yes.
As well?
See, the structure is like this. The states as well as the central government, the Act is national. But to implement the thing, or as a final adjudication body, there are what are called information commissioners, which have been set up under the Act. The state has its own information commissioners, the central government has its own information commissioners. That's the difference. But otherwise, you can ask from any one of these, including courts, including just about anything that you call a public authority, barring some 28 or 30 organizations, which are what they call intelligence agency organizations, which have been barred, which is also unfortunate. We had fought that there is no reason to bar these, but okay, I mean, that's existing. We have about 28, 30 organizations that we can't ask for. But all other organizations we can ask for. What information can we ask? The Act says all information belongs to citizens. The citizen owns government, and therefore if he owns the government, he owns all information with the government, and therefore all information must be given to him. However, and we all recognize that to run any kind of state, there will be some information which if given would not be in public interest. This will be impossible. Let's say, to give an example, supposing we were to ask the police if a major crime has occurred and say, okay, in the last 6 months, who are the people you investigated, who are the witnesses, what have they told you, who are your suspects? If you were to ask that, the police will find it impossible to function. Therefore, this kind of information will not be given. And there are 10 categories, to be precise. Similarly, invasion of privacy, as it's called. That's a category that's exempted. But there is an overriding clause in the Act which says, notwithstanding any of the exemptions, information shall be provided if there is a larger public interest in providing this. And it has been provided. I'll give you 1 or 2 examples of this. Yes?
So who holds these PIOs accountable?
Yeah, okay. The structure works like this. In 30 days, the PIO must give you a reply. If he does not, in 30 days, it's a deemed refusal. You don't have to do anything. There is what's called a first appellate authority within the same department. He's an officer senior to the public information officer in rank, who is supposed to look at it, to whom you can appeal. And that person look at it, and it's like a judicial proceeding, and decide whether that PIO is wrong. This man also within 30 days has to clear a repeal. It's not left to his sweet will. If he does not, it's a deemed refusal again, and you go to the Information Commission, which is an independent body set up under the Act to adjudicate on this. And there are state information commissions and central information commissions. Each state has their own information commissions. There, of course, there are problems. I'm not saying everything is perfect. You don't live in a perfect society. You will get information commissions but we have still been able to make a fair amount of headway, even at the information commissions level. They are not perfect, as I said, but there will be varying differences. But we have a process, and the citizen does not have to go anywhere. I've used this tremendous number of times and perhaps fairly effectively. And I've never gone to a government office. I send an RT application by post. I don't call up a public information officer. I never go and meet them. There have been some times a public information officer calls me up and says, Mr. Gandhi, oh, we'd like to meet you. Why don't you come to our office? And I tell them, I'm sorry, I don't have time. And then someone says, no, I want to meet you. So I tell him, okay, you can come and meet me at my place at my time if you are so. And they are really not interested. But the citizen need not go and meet anybody at all. This is the beauty of this Act. You can actually do this whole process by post. Sit at home and send your RT application. You get a reply. If you don't get a reply, go into an FP. And you can use it very, very effectively with deadly effectiveness.